So I'm going to start with a couple of good stories from the back of the Star this morning. Shambles. Benitez given no warning of statement. Fans may boycott. Legend Shearer slams departure. This is an interesting story that Mike Ashley personally intervened to get rid of one of the best managers in world football from Newcastle, which has been an omni-shambles basically since he took over. Not Benitez, Mike Ashley obviously. And apparently Benitez was more than likely going to walk anyway, but hadn't fully decided, and they kind of expected that there would be last-minute talks because his contract runs out at the end of June, what are we at, the 25th there. So, and then GAA turned down Curragh clash request. Derek McGrath, the boss of the Curragh, not the former Waterford hurler, has revealed that request to move the throw-in time to later on Saturday evening or the next day fell on deaf ears. So the Kildare game throws in at 5 o'clock in Newbridge. The derby is at 20 past 5, and the Curragh and Newbridge are 5 miles apart. I don't know if everybody is totally and utterly aware of the roadworks situation around the N7. I think you probably are at this stage because you've heard about it enough wherever you've been consuming news for the last 2.5, 3 years, however long, 20 years, however long it's been going on. And so there is a concern that traffic will be a shit show on Saturday evening, and it may well be. So I don't know, maybe they would have 7 o'clock throw-in have changed things, might have staggered things a little bit. People were able to go to the derby and then go to the match.
Did it clash last year as well?
With the Mayo game?
Yeah, I do recall there being some mention of the Curragh and the massive amount of people that would be in Newbridge causing trouble that evening as one of the threads around that mad narrative last year. So yeah, it's a bit of it, but I think that was that at 5 o'clock last year as well? I can't remember. Newbridge and Norway seems like 5 years ago at this point.
They also have a story about Declan Rowley, the former Longford selector, has rode in behind Eamon Callaghan and his call for a boycott/strike.
So there's two, and do you know what? Maybe it is a situation where nobody's really thinking about this. Nobody's thinking, yeah, it would be a great idea to strike, and then somebody says it, and it's like, hold on a minute.
That might fix things.
Isn't striking for Cork hurlers or for SIP2 workers or whatever it may be? Actually, hold on a minute. This is something that we can do as well. It's not exactly something when it comes to the most dramatic of circumstances. Actually, hold on a minute. It is one of the more dramatic circumstances that we have. We've got a failing competition that used to be great, and that failing competition is actually going to start infecting the rest of Gaelic games in a while. So maybe it is, and maybe Callaghan's words, his tweet, could be something that starts something very, very dramatic. The Irish Examiner this morning goes with leading the chase, ranking football's last 16. Donegal now in Dublin's slipstream. Fogarty Forum then, GAA headquarters just too cosy with Dublin, while Derek McGrath is talking about Western hurling and how tears of joy for Leitrim and Sligo awaken Western hurling. Special return. Could Jose Mourinho follow Rafa into the Toon hot seat? We'll get Graham Hunter's take on that a little bit later on. And rekindling the affair, Tom Watson in the running to shape Ballybunion's future. Then also you got Mike Works calling today. Aggressive Cork rediscovered their running game, but what is Kerry's calling card?
The Herald cruise over for Blues, drive for 5 has now begun. So the easy part of the championship, the tune-up, the preliminaries, i.e. picking up the first bit of tin, the Leinster title, is over, and their serious business starts there. But it doesn't really, because we could yet have a Super 8 situation where things are pretty straightforward for them. And Connolly takes flight at the back page headline. Diarmuid saga set to end as Dubs sweat over Mac. So it looks like Connolly's not coming back this year. He's heading to Boston to play with the Donegal club again. And also Dublin are waiting final word on the severity of the injury suffered by James McCarthy. I don't know if that's just because they're waiting for swelling to come down before the scan can take place, or the scans haven't come back yet, but didn't look good.
The back page of the Irish Independent is Dublin return off the table as Connolly heads to US. This is the story that Ger just mentioned there. You've also got a couple of more bits of information from Michael Verney here saying that Dublin panellist Colin Baskell is also heading away for the summer as he links up with Chicago's side Wolf Tones, while 2016 Hurler of the Year Austin Gleeson is another on the move with a transfer granted to the Prairie Hurling Club in New York. You've also got Dundalk Chief Executive defends €30 stand ticket price for a Euro clash with Riga. Fans unhappy with that price. It previously charged €25 for stand tickets for Champions League qualifiers at the ground, but Riga will be lower profile opposition than Bate Borisov or Rosenborg. It seems pretty steep. You also there in the picture on the back of the Irish Independent is Chloe and Sam McGee in Minsk at the European Games.
The Irish Times is the Kevin McStay column. Donegal shaping up as biggest danger to Dublin, so he's got them number 2 in his power rankings. And Patton has no regrets over changing codes to answer Donegal call. This is a great bit of detail from Declan Bogue in a piece that's carried in a couple of the papers this morning. Where's it going here? Donegal goalkeeper Sean Patton had played the sum total of 2 senior games of Gaelic football before Declan Bonner put a call through in late 27. And we're talking about 2014 here. It came in the 2014 Ulster Club Championship run with St Eunan's of Letterkenny as they met Rossley Shamrocks of Fermanagh and Tyrone champions Oma St Enda's. Earlier that year, Patton featured in goals for his school, St Eunan's, in the McLaren Cup final. In the matchday programme, his club was listed as Finn Harps. You know, there was a time when that was grounds for excommunication from the GAA, but it's like, well, Finn Harps, do they, what? I didn't realise Paul Durkin is on the bench, according to this piece, for Donegal at the minute. But yeah, Patton's reputation has exploded. Yeah. It's like right up there now with any of the... People are talking in the same breath as Cluxton. Yeah, and certainly he's kind of reminiscent of Rory Beggan's summer last year as well, the way he's able to casually pick out a man close to the opposition 45-metre line. If you can just pop it over the midfield there, which is just an outrageous talent. And somebody, I think when it comes to an explosion onto the scene this year, of course, the name has been mentioned. It's him, though. Like this year, people are starting to wake up and actually realise the set of talents that this guy has. So he's been a brilliant weapon for them, and just representative of how Donegal have strengthened every single position this year. The Irish Daily Mail this morning goes with, let's boycott, critics want action over Dublin's funding. This is Eamon Callaghan's tweet as well, and they've also got a quote from John Horan at the qualifier draw on radio yesterday morning, asked about the model of funding for Dublin and if they're going to look at perhaps changing that. He says, no, I'm not going to say that that's on the agenda at the moment. Rafa left in the dark over 2 exits, says Craig Hope here, and then you've got Catch Me If You Can, Michaela Walsh, on the way to victory yesterday in Minsk. So it is the Racing Post, and it's a picture of Owen Morgan lording it, England out to extend ODI dominance over Australia. So Owen Morgan there pictured, obviously in great form at the minute. Newcastle slashed for relegation following Benitez blow. There you go, Mike Ashley. What impact does it have? Everybody thinks you're going to get relegated now. 7-2 is the price for Newcastle. They were 6-1 before that. I don't think there was any chance of them getting relegated when they had Rafa Benitez as their manager. The Coolmore Colossus, a major new profile series, because John Magner, the pioneer who revolutionised racing and bloodstock. So if you want to know a little bit more about the bloodstock industry and John Magner's involvement in the whole thing, then pick up today's Racing Post. Gibbs Hill Gamble in plate has bookies on the run. So this is the Northumberland plate that they're talking about today.
The back page of the Irish Mirror is Toon Barmy. Benitez was not told by club they wanted him out. Shearer slamming Shambles Club as angry fans revolt. You've also got an Andy edition here, says Paul O'Hare. Andy Boyle signing a bumper 3.5-year deal with Dundalk.
And then shock and woe. There you go. That's it. Top of the morning to you. Benitez leaves Newcastle, that was it. And Harry pulls a Houdini. Did you just do that, Harry pulls a Houdini? Is that your headline?
No. Toon Barmy.
Oh, yeah, okay, sorry. Harry Maguire could be left in limbo, it says in The Sun, as the Manchester Giants battle to sign the Leicester man. City will not match the Fox's 80 million valuation. Who might be able to match that 80 million valuation?
Is there a football club who spend idiotically that might be in a similar ilk to Manchester City?
We've got to match the 80 million. It's like yesterday it was 40. Today it's 80. It's like, who cares? It's just money. They can afford it.
Yeah, it's just a constant pushing up of the price tag. Like I think your theory yesterday is becoming closer to reality with every passing day. We'll just see the narrative suddenly change and Manchester City's interest dwindle over the next couple of days. It's going to be very, very entertaining to watch, and I'm greatly looking forward to Manchester United chomping on that bait.
I mean, if this happens, they're literally the dumbest club that has ever existed.
Like the counter argument to that is that Harry Maguire, forget the transfer fee, might not be that bad a signing. In fact, he'd actually be a good signing.
Well, he would be a good signing at the right price, because if you overpay him and if 300 grand a week is now the new basic salary, then everybody else is going to match themselves against Harry Maguire. Marcus Rashford signs his new deal, and 3 weeks later Harry Maguire signs. Marcus Rashford is pissed off immediately, despite the fact he just doubled his salary. It makes no sense. The economics of that And the bit where they're sitting side by side and Marcus Rashford scores 25 goals next season, Harry Maguire makes a few mistakes, it doesn't work.
No, economically it doesn't. But as a purely footballing decision, Manchester United sign Harry Maguire, keep a few clean sheets at the start of the season, win their first 3 or 4 games or whatever it may be. The narrative suddenly changes to great signing for Manchester United. They had to pay above the odds, but sometimes you got to do that when you don't have much else going for you. They did it, they got him, and he's transformed their defence. People will overreact in a positive way if he makes even a slight improvement, if Manchester United start to keep clean sheets, if their defence looks a bit more solid. And we'll suddenly forget about this price tag, and it might be a necessary evil. I'm not saying that they should do it. I'm just saying that I don't think it's as big a disaster as this may seem if Manchester City are trying to trap them.
Yeah, I mean, it just...
Although Manchester City aren't probably trying directly to do that.
Well, I mean, I'd say they are. I'd say that's one of the, when you're at the level City are at, you may as well try and weaken your opponent. It's Sun Tzu, the art of war, right?
But they're so bored by their own success that now they've really just started to twist the knife.
Yeah.
It's like a game of risk.
Well, I mean, in the late 80s, early 90s, there would have been some times that Liverpool would have signed a player just to prevent somebody from getting him, and then he would have rotted in reserves for a year and had a crappy career, and you're like, okay, it's a bit brutal, but it worked.
Yeah, it's fairly ruthless, to be fair. I don't know. I think that Harry Maguire is going to get on the move at some point over the next couple of weeks. Manchester City, their interest may be real. It's probably not going to be real. Manchester United could sign him, and it could go okay.
We've talked a good bit about the Connolly story over the last 8 months or so, just in the real belief that there was a good chance he was coming back. I think there was a good chance that he was coming back, and then at the last minute, he obviously decided that he wasn't going to come back. And so we'll see him in a Donegal jersey again in the summer in Boston. More interest in the Boston Championship again this year than is probably
in Leinster.
Well, I mean, that's true. I just wonder if they're going to regret this. I mean, probably not. It doesn't feel like it at the moment. But if they were to get Mayo and Tyrone and Roscommon in the Super 8 group, which is possible, right? Mm-hmm. 2 home games, of course. Would they regret it?
Hindsight is the only thing that's going to give us the answer here. I'm starting to think the more time has gone by that, there's going to be no regrets. Ultimately, the only regret they can have is not winning the All-Ireland. They are probably going to win the All-Ireland. They're probably going to win 5 in a row. It doesn't really matter how they do it. Having Diarmuid Connolly there would probably add a bit of drama in terms of the spark that he brings on the pitch in particular. And maybe with the retirement of Paul Flynn, they might need that at some point off the bench. But I still think that they have more than enough resources to go and actually bring a bit of flair at times if they want to, but more importantly, bring players off the bench that are machine-like in their dedication to the Dublin cause, and they will be absolutely fine without him. It's strange that we're having this conversation 24 hours after saying, well, if James McCarthy is out for a bit of time, then that's really something irreplaceable. But I wonder even if that's the case, that if they can lose someone like Connolly and we're really nah. I know they've had a bit of time to adjust.
I think that if James McCarthy is out, Connolly can play midfield. He can totally fulfill that role. He could be that extra bit of strength and depth that they have that they just don't have in that area. I mean, obviously, that's not really his role, and obviously much better as a forward. But certainly his range of passing would have been really interesting for them to be able to use in the midfield area. And then the other thing was that Roscommon are going to be the team who ultimately end up playing Dublin in their second home game in the Super 8s this year, despite the fact that they are themselves provincial champions and they're only going to have one home game themselves. So you're starting to see Roscommon be this year's Donegal and saying, well, this is bullshit. Well, how is this happening? How are they having 2 home games in the Super 8s? And it doesn't seem to be that big a deal for everybody else. The competition is not a fair competition.
No.
Because one team has twice as much home advantage at the key stage with the tournament as everybody else.
Roscommon versus Dublin should be played in Portlaoise. It's as simple as that. That is the fairest thing to do. It's close. It's closer to Roscommon. I would say Portlaoise because it's you don't want the Dublin fans to be travelling too far now. On their second trip away in the championship.
2 hours to go. They can do that.
Well, it's 2 hours that you could be spent down the pub near Croke Park instead. I don't know. It's obviously something that's not going to change. Croke Park have already come out and said, no, this isn't going to happen. There was the opportunity to kind of tweak it, and they will come out with the nonsense line that the Super 8s were voted on the premise that Dublin would have 2 home games, which really just doesn't make sense when you think about how tough it is to get anything through Congress and why county boards like Donegal last year did vote for the Super 8. So I don't know, it's not going to change, but if you talk about the integrity of a competition, for sure, the most vital round of the Super 8s could be something that decides things, should be played in a neutral ground between two provincial champions. So it's unfortunate for Roscommon. They've got a great opportunity now playing in the Hyde the first game, then they go to the Dubs backyard, and who knows what that'll do for their confidence going into round 3.
Yeah. Dublin beat Tyrone 217 to 114 in the All-Ireland final last year. I didn't actually remember being as close as that, 6 points in the end. It was Tyrone 14 points, Dublin 114 in Omagh, so it's worth at least 3 points home advantage, and it probably feels a bit more, to be honest. Feels like maybe Dublin were easing up a little bit at the end in the All-Ireland final. So, you know, should Roscommon have a 3-point head start? Should it be Roscommon 3 points, Dublin no score when the ball gets thrown in?
No, because Dublin will get angry and they'll beat you by 40 points.
Well, then, at least let's see it. Like, let's have some pretense that this is a fair competition.
Yeah, maybe. Like, it's interesting that you mentioned that scoreline in Omagh last year. I don't think the Super 8s last year quite gets the credit it deserves. Like, I think it's been quickly written off as this thing that shows that the Super 8s is a little bit stupid or didn't really work last year. I think it was a bit better than we think, and this year is going to be a lot better than last year.
It was one good game. You can't. I'm not having it.